everyone. Welcome to the panel today. My name is Cassie Crossley, and we will introduce the other panelists in just a moment. Let me share my screen and one second. Yes, I will. Hold on one second. All right, we'll just do it the best we can. Sorry about this. First time using Hop-in with sharing. Okay, let me know if you can see the presentation.
Yep, Cassie.
Excellent. So let me describe our panel. Just we'll do introductions, and then it will be a time for us to do the panel questions and then take audience questions. So if you have questions about the topic and for specifically us, please plan to put those in the chat. We will have plenty of time to answer your questions. So the topic today is why you don't need to be a technical expert to be in cybersecurity. This is why I believe it's beyond engineering. You may be already in the cybersecurity field or interested in it. It's not just a career topic. It's how can you really think about being beyond the technical aspects. So let me introduce myself. I live in Berkeley, California. I have a degree in technical and professional communication. I started out as a computer science major, though, at the Georgia Institute of Technology. So I really was a programmer for several years, but then just completed my education in a different field, and I have my MBA. So I wanted to provide you just a little bit of the background of myself as we get into this panel. As I said, I've started as a software developer, but then I really did not enjoy it. I liked working with people. I'm very much an extrovert and wanted to be in an area where I was not behind a desk all day. So I actually took a customer support rep job with Lotus a long time ago. And then at Lotus, I moved into technical writing, and then further moved into, at other companies, I was a documentation manager, and then later really found my home which was project management and program management. So I led hundreds upon hundreds of software development projects. So I was back in R&D and in the IT space where there was application development, but I was actually leading the teams and the initiatives. From there, I moved on to becoming a Six Sigma Black Belt, so focused on a lot of process stuff at a business level, working directly for the CIO. So I was the deputy CIO at a HR payroll firm. I also took a role in that company where I was professional services director, where I was working with the customers on customizing the application. And then later I became a PMO director, where I was managing all the software and firmware projects at Schneider Electric, where I am now. And then I was an IT director and then moved into cybersecurity. What this doesn't show is that I actually worked for McAfee in the mid-90s. So I was familiar with security and had worked in the security aspects of it through all my different roles, but really it didn't have a name at that point in time. And then I joined the CISO organization as cybersecurity director, and then moved back over to really my home court, where I was doing a lot of development now as a product security director. And I'm the deputy chief product security officer at Schneider Electric. And let Punitha, if you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Cassie. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be in the panel today of the Security program, and happy to be sharing my thoughts over here. I live in Bangalore, India, and I have a bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering. And also I did my master's in engineering and management. Prior to that, starting into this cybersecurity field, I had held of various positions. I started my career with assistant professor in engineering colleges because I was very much interested in teaching, and you feel young at heart when you are being with students. So I really like that and learn from students rather than I guide them. So then gradually, after I did my master's, there was a trigger point where I started to see if there is a corporate world that is suitable for me. Then I entered into software engineering process group, for which I was dealing part and parcel of their process facilitations in terms of projects, programs, and all the development teams and the testing teams. Then I actually moved into Schneider with a different role of not only into process managing and facilitation, but also into the metrics, because I have a statistical background of Six Sigma, where I did part and parcel of reducing defects with a lot of improvement projects prior to joining this role. And also finally I stepped into the this current role of cybersecurity, where I'm there here almost 3 years, and Schneider looking up with a lot of technical details of it, and of course my process background is helping me. It's challenging, but definitely it's interesting. Thank you.
Great. And we'll learn more in a few minutes. All right, Paula?
Thank you, Cassie and Punitha. So I have the probably most strange route to where I am today. I've had many careers. So I went to MIT and I studied planetary physics. And I started at MIT when I was 16 years old. And by the time I was 19, I was completely sick of doing that. And so I left without a degree, which very few people ever figure out from reading my resume, or which is fascinating to me. And I almost immediately went into technical writing because it was brand new back then. And I had this great technical background from MIT. And so it was like a profession made for me because I had loved writing as well as the technology. At the age of 27, I started a technical communication and training business with another woman who was my business partner. We did that for 19 years, built it to 55 people. We did consulting, we did permanent placement, temporary placement, training, ran conferences, a wide variety of things. I became an industry expert. It was a new industry. I mean, technical communication was relatively young. I did lots of speaking, lots of keynotes, training, wrote articles. I volunteered for Society for Technical Communication, professional organization. I became the international president of the organization with 15,000 members. Also, during those 19 years, I had 3 kids and virtually no maternity leave. I taught at a lot of technical communication programs. I commuted to University of California, Santa Cruz for 9 years as an adjunct professor. And then after September 11th, when people stopped traveling, we closed. We had to shut down. I worked in Italy then for 18 months. I had a 4,000-mile commute each way for longer than most people commuted each month. And I helped another company do what my company had done and grow. So I did that for a while. And then I came back to the US. I took a job in communication, and I ended up as the executive director of a global technology standards consortium, the Near Field Communication Forum. Learned all about association management. For 6 years, I traveled everywhere. I used my communication skills, the board skills from my SDC time, speaking skills. I built a community. My technical background was very helpful. And then I tried to get rich, like everybody else in near field communication. We started lots of startups. I had 4 startups. I was a VP of marketing. I was a VP of communication. I worked on books, did all kinds of other things. None of us got rich. And then a friend posted a job on Facebook, a technical publications person, and I went backwards in my career, back to my tech pubs roots. I was hired as a writer, never wrote anything, immediately took over managing a team. I built a team of 7 people in the US or North America, 19 in India, I used my training skills, speaking skills, management skills, lots of travel. And then I moved on to work with Cassie and Punitha as the change manager for the product security office. I didn't have a background in product security, but I had communication skills, training skills, community skills, all the things listed in the job description. And so Cassie said, it's a good fit. So I built a community. I used all those skills. I wore lots of hats, and I learned a lot about cybersecurity. And so Caterpillar was coming along looking for someone to build a cybersecurity awareness and learning team. And I had all the right skills thanks to my time in the product security office. And I am now leading a team of 8 in Caterpillar as the cybersecurity awareness and learning team. My comment is, don't be afraid to move. Don't be afraid to go backwards to try something new. Don't let fear hold you back, because you would never get to do all the interesting things you can do. So back to you, Cassie.
Great. Thank you. All right. I've stopped sharing. So today, some of the questions that I'm going to ask, hopefully it would be questions that are on your mind, but please definitely put your comments in, and then the folks that are helping us behind the scenes will be able to display them. So, but I have a set of questions that I want to ask Paula and Punitha, and I will definitely be answering these questions myself. So let me get them queued up. All right, so I'll start with you, Punitha. Why did you take a role in the cybersecurity group, and did you know something about the field beforehand? Because it's just this, let's say, this group that, you know, some people are afraid of and some people are excited, and it is just coming into the news a lot. So what led you down this path?
Okay, so I should just start with the past. Being in the quality domain for more than 7+ years, Cassie, I was exposed to various quality frameworks like ISO 9001, CMMI, COBIT, and different frameworks that I was doing part and parcel with my project managers and program managers. And one of the standard I was dealing was ISO 27K, which deals with a lot of information systems and security controls. But the hard part was that to understand the technicalities to do an audit of an information systems and security, because we were part and parcel where in my previous organization, we were mostly involved with CMMI and ISO 9001. Cybersecurity was just catching up. So, but still, I had that interest or the flair of knowing, knowing more about the technicalities of this field at that point of time. And then when I switched my job to Schneider, I got the similar role of what I was doing. It was literally a cakewalk for me, because by the time when I reached in Schneider, I was very well versed with ISO 9000, CMMI, and things like that. And there was a saturation point where I thought, okay, let me explore the ISO 27K piece bit more. And then the other thing was also before me was a challenge that whether I can still take those technical jargons into my mind and then give the right recommendations to all my stakeholders. So, and that was a main trigger point, challenging myself to understand how am I fit from away from my comfort zone. That was one other thing that I wanted to try myself, because I always been playing different roles as from my, there was a great switch from academic to the corporate world. That was a big challenge for me. So I always try to challenge myself whenever I get too comfort. So that was one trigger point. The other thing was I was fascinated about this GRC concept, where I was partly dealing with risk separately and then the compliance part separately. I wanted to see if there is a correlation between where I can stitch all these 3 pillars, governance, risk, and compliance, together and bring about something value add to the organizations with my own expertise and with my things there. So that is the reason that I thought, okay, cybersecurity will be best fit for me to understand. One, it is going to be very challenging for me. The second thing is that I'm going to understand something new and then keep learning myself. So third thing is that I'm going to become little right from the scratch, right? Where I have to unlearn my expertise and then learn something new. So that was the main reason, Cassie. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And Paula, same to you, is why did you take a role in the cybersecurity group, and did you know something about the field beforehand?
I knew very little about cybersecurity, but I was lucky because Cassie is the one who hired me, and Cassie also came from a technical communication background and had a lot of the same thoughts about what was needed to communicate. And one of the key points about cybersecurity and not being a technical person is the fact that you need to be able to communicate why it's important. Awareness is a critical part of it, and just we had a big company at Schneider Electric and lots of people who needed to know about cybersecurity and in product security, even then with our smaller group of still thousands and thousands of people that we needed to communicate with. I think that we had a plan for how to do that. And I also think that coming from a technical communication background, especially having owned a consulting company for almost 20 years, you learn something new on every project. You're never documenting the same thing twice. And what you learn is how to learn. What are the questions to ask? How do you find subject matter experts? How do you become knowledgeable enough in cybersecurity to put a portal together, to put a training program together? And I learned to ask the right questions. I knew how to do that. And it made a huge difference because I was able to learn. I also used skills I had learned in the association world. Find the gurus. Find the people who put out newsletters, read the newsletters. You'll know what's hot, what the topics are, what's important to be sharing with other people. And that helps. Knowing how to learn is a huge skill, fundamental skill for all of us.
Thank you. And for the answer for me is I gave a little bit of the background as I said that I had worked at McAfee as documentation manager. So I was familiar at it. There was no term at that time. And when cybersecurity really became mainstream, I think WannaCry was one of the events where it started to be in the news for folks. And I was just joining the CISO team then. But in the previous role I was in the company, I was looking for something new, and I talked to my leader, the SVP I reported to, and I said, I'm bored. I'm not being challenged. And 2 days later, he's like, well, there's an opening in the cybersecurity team. I'm like, yes, finally, because I knew it was going to be challenging. Because like Punitha, it was really, really important that I am exploring new areas every day. When you're in the fields that I am in for decades in different areas, it's not just about the people you work with, but are you continuing to grow and bring your skill sets to help mature other areas? And being just by default a project manager and program manager is seeing that vision of where I want the groups to go. So I thought that would be an excellent fit. And so now I've been in the field truly labeled in cybersecurity for over 5 years. And I just don't see myself leaving. I think it's part of the security point. I want to mention that when you're a female I'm getting a little bit of feedback. When you're a female in a field, a technical field, there's a bit of ageism and aging out. And I honestly was very concerned about that. Am I only going to be doing program management for the next 15, 20 years? Because where am I going to grow up? I'm not I could be a VP of development, but that wasn't really my passion. So when I took the role in cybersecurity, I was also doing it because I don't see cybersecurity going away. There's not the importance, as anybody who's been following the field or in the field for years, you see it more and more. I mean, when my own grandparents in their 90s are asking me cybersecurity questions because they watched something on the news, that lets you know that this is really become true life, and the work that we're doing is very important. And to me, that just I have a passion for it, and I don't see that changing. So I was not it was not something I knew about the field, but I definitely took the role to replace sort of that need of really something that I can be loving what I do. So the next question I have is, I'll start with Paula this time, is how long did it take you to feel comfortable with cybersecurity and all the technical jargon?
It took a while. Cassie and I had a regular cadence of calls, and I would start them off with general cybersecurity questions. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? I had a running list as the week went by, but I also listened in on lots of calls with the cybersecurity advisors, with others, and listened to what they said. And as I said, one of the things that you learn in your career as a communicator is to find out what things mean. So I Googled a lot and I listened a lot, and I used all the resources I had to ask people. I read every white paper the company had, distributed on cybersecurity. I did my homework. It took a while, probably a year, till I felt comfortable enough that I wasn't going to sound like an idiot at some point. I also did something to help me, like I put a glossary of cybersecurity terms on our portal, because one of my jobs was to build a portal, because then not just me, but other people could look up what things meant and learn faster. But it took a while. I would say a year. And now, going back to what you said about finding your career, I'm older than Cassie, and I thought I was going to end my career at Schneider Electric, that no one would ever hire me at my age. And I was stunned to find that not only Caterpillar, but at least 4 other companies have the same job description out there in cybersecurity for awareness and communication and training, which was a surprise to me. So there's plenty of opportunity, and they didn't say a word to me about how old I am. So that, which was a huge fear. Cassie knew that. It was a huge fear. So, and I feel like if I hate it, I could probably move somewhere else. So that's a reassuring thing to me. Over to you, Punitha.
Okay, thank you. That was really interesting, Paula. Yeah, well, again, for this, it depends upon the individual, I think, and it definitely, it doesn't have to get into. You need to be too much of brainy to understand all these technical. End of the day, you will have to be passionate about learning. That's my take. You need to connect the dots about your role, and everybody cannot have it all, right? You do not need to know everything on the sun on the cybersecurity, because it is too huge. So what I would suggest, or I took the approach of connecting with my peers, and honestly, I should definitely give the credits to them. They were so modest and humble. Sometimes I go to them and ask them, hey, you better teach me this. I did not get into the technical jargons of it. You better teach me this, then I'll give you a process definition, which is going to really help you in further of process, or the process definition of the process itself. So that way, I have people around me. I have reached out to penetration testing team in my own governance team. I have reached out to the vulnerability team members. I have reached out to the incident response team, and just fixed up and blocked their calendar, say that I need 30 minutes of your time, what you're really doing. Just give me a walkthrough about what you're doing. So they were very, very humble. And initial days of cybersecurity, my best thing is actually to see how to actually connect the dots, because I come from the assessor, or I come from the quality background. The 360-degree view of connecting the dots across the teams really will be helpful, because I'm going to do a definition or process definitions for them. So that was one easy way I adopted. I also did some Googling, and of course, which Paula said, that you need to have a self-study of your own as well. But definitely your faster learning will be enhanced with the connecting with other peers, whom will be very much helpful in this. So my take on this is, do not hesitate to reach out for help, and do not shy away which you do not know. It's okay. It's okay. You cannot know everything on the to connect, but it is good to know the overview of the perspective of your field, and connect what you wanted to do in your role. That will be really helpful. Yeah.
And it, even with my background in R&D and in IT, when I first took over the and started what we call our Crown Jewels program, I had security controls that were written by security architects, and being able to explain those to the different application owners of what was needed, that meant I had to understand it. What exactly did that control? So I would ask, questions that, especially going through at the beginning, it's like, how do I explain this to other people? And I think that that's exactly where Paula is. If you can understand it and explain it to somebody else, then you've really made a step forward, and never shying away from that. So I think it takes time. I mean, there's still, I'm not kidding you, every week it seems like I'm Googling something, because I'll see something referenced. It could be a buzzword or something, but I'm seeing something referenced in a paper, or somebody mentions that in, even in the panel, and I'll go, they're like, what does that mean? So I'll end up on Wikipedia, and then I'll end up on different sites to learn about the background, so I know where it sits in the whole framework of understanding. And then I can make a decision if I want to go deeper into that. But it still happens every week. There's new terms and jargon. All right. So Punitha, back to you. Do you feel unskilled or at a disadvantage that you don't have a cybersecurity degree and you weren't in a technical cybersecurity role?
Okay. So I think most women has this imposter syndrome. I think because they doubt their skills, they doubt their the ability mostly than when comparative to men. Researchers, I do had that, honestly, like right, I do have that. I'm not going to say I do not have it, but the point here is. I try to connect with my people around to see how am I doing and what are the ways and means to overcome this kind of things. Because end of the day, when you are not confident about yourself of your role, then the whole point, right, it is going to be very tough to people to tell them even what best suits them on the process. So I just, based on all these researches, I try to maybe I get it can be helpful for others out there as well. I follow this technique called CABS technique, which is like to overcome this, especially this imposter syndrome. C is like call out that imposter call, explicitly in your mind, and then rephrase yourself. So that is one thing that I try to talk to me, saying that, okay, hey, listen, okay, fine, it's fine, but you have to rephrase your mind, saying that it's fine, you will learn, and end of the day, you will get it. Second is accept that everyone makes mistakes, right? So everyone talk about stupid things, and everyone make mistakes. So you will have to accept somewhere in your mind that everyone does it. So it is okay to be making mistakes, and it is okay to fail something miserably sometime, where you have a lessons learned for it. It's okay. So third thing is that break the nexus between the humility and the loss of failure. Okay, so humility is not that thinking about less of yourself, but thinking yourself very less, right? So there is a lot of difference between it. So you will have to constantly think about it. Then finally is like step back from being, or set back yourself of being expert all the time. No need to be an expert all the time. So these are the four things, and I try to, my mentors and my research basically thought, okay, let me build these techniques in my mind. Call out that imposter thing in your head, remove it. Second, accept that everybody makes mistakes. Three, break the nexus between humility and losing of the failure. And finally, the fourth one is the step back from the expertise of being to be an expert by yourself. So that way, it's just I'm trying to overcome it, and now I'm feeling little confident about playing my role of what I wanted to bring in the plate for the organization, and again groom myself on technicalities.
Great, thank you. And Paula, to you, do you feel at a disadvantage that you didn't have a technical?
No, I have to say the imposter syndrome was never an issue for me since I went to MIT when I was 16 years old. I had this technical background, and it overwhelms people. Even if it's totally irrelevant to what I'm doing, people assume that I'm going to be okay at the technology. So it's kind of funny. It almost makes it pressure in the other direction, because people assume you're going to understand every single thing. But being on the communication and awareness and training side gives me the opening to say, I need to understand this to a level to be able to explain it to other people. So if I don't understand it, I have to, because you can't explain something if you don't understand it. And if you try to, it's immediately obvious. You know, you can't get away with not knowing something and trying to teach it to other people. I know that from my years as a trainer. You just have to say, I don't know this. I'll get back to you, right? So I didn't have the imposter part, but I didn't have some of the cybersecurity parts, and I was able to get that by the fact that it's an advantage to not know everything when you're trying to learn, you know, build a training program, build an awareness program, build a portal. You have to ask everybody every question. So you get to learn a lot, and it's not as obvious what you do and don't know. So I think it was, you know, sort of an even thing. It was not really a big issue for me. So I'm sort of lucky about that, but that's always been the way my career went. So
I've got one last question for all of us before we've got some audience questions, which is great. So the last question before we jump to those is, what benefits do you see non-standard roles being into the cybersecurity organizations? I think it's fairly obvious by who I've invited to there, but you know, you came from the outside. So how do you've seen this cybersecurity aspect within you know, our company and now another company, but how do you feel for the companies that only have maybe a couple application security engineers or penetration testing? You know, what could they get as a value? And which is really what I'm trying to get to is, how can the folks on here help grow their organizations so it's not just a technical role in cybersecurity? So Paula?
I think people need to know what their skills are. I think one of the hardest things for people when they write their resume is they list what they have done and not what they are skilled at. And I think you have to be able to sell yourself on what your skills are, and then figure out how that fits into a cybersecurity organization. And it can be a variety of different ways. There's all kinds of things. I mean, we all came from totally different backgrounds and got there. And there's probably a way for you to do that, but you have to know your skills. Also, you have to push for the fact that there are pieces of the cybersecurity organization missing. For us, Cassie really had to promote the idea that this awareness, change management, training role was going to be critical. And I don't think that it was necessarily obvious when the team was first started. We had to sell that. And I think whatever your skill set is, figure out how you can sell that. Point out how important that is. And it became so important that Cassie and I built a huge portal that became the source of knowledge for all product security for the entire company. And nobody except Cassie had that vision. And then I came, she passed it to me, and really it became a huge thing. So you have to figure out how you can sell your value. Punitha?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Paula. Definitely, that is one awareness and training portal which is really helping us. So it's a really value added. So I wanted to take a different perspective here with process angle. So as a process person, you know the business needs here, and you know the business, what the business needs, and you have a development team here who's really facing the challenges day in, day out. So I'm here in the middle. So you know the business needs, and you know the technical, and trying to see what the challenge is. I'm the person who's going to be a communicator or a moderator between what the business wants and what this development environment is really are. So I have the exact part of the not too much of technical, but still I can understand technical skills, and I knew the business language, so I can put it forward to the business in the right manner, saying that, hey, this is the problem that the development teams are facing, and what is the solutions, or what are the recommendations that we are going to give them. And I can also tell them this is the root cause of the development. So there is a stitch. I feel like there is a stitch, these roles with standard roles which can think out of box, where they can really be communicating with the business and with the development teams in the right manner, and try to talk the business language to the development team, and take this technical flavors of the development team and communicate in the business language to the business team. So their way, you become a great moderator in between these two, where from the process angle, it is going to be a win-win solution of these two. So I feel that kind of scenarios, or that kind of roles are immense, are needed in an organization where a technical expertise with the business mindset is very, very important to communicate the right time to the business or to the organization at the leadership level.
That's great.
Great answer.
And now we have a question from Claudia. I'll read it. I think they'll be able to display it on the screen. Is, what do you do in cybersecurity that you don't need to be a technical expert, as the panel says? So I want to start this one by talking about one other role that was key. So as Paula said, when I moved into this organization, I knew what I needed, right? I've done projects, I've done programs. I knew how to take it and build up the maturity from all the different angles. Because to me, it's no different than if I'm releasing a brand new product, right? What do I need to be able to get out there? And so the other skill set that I brought in, and now there's multiple, is project management. Project management, many of us who come from a project management background, half the projects we're doing, we've never done before. I would say 90% of the projects that we're doing, we've never done before. And so being able to, if you're an IT project manager or have not even had the title as project manager, but have sort of a background, or you might be in a technical cybersecurity role and want to get more business oriented, and get more working with other teams, project management is an excellent fit. It has the capability where you're sort of, you get to work with the technical details. You're working with technical people usually on your team, but you're also working with the customers or stakeholders or people in, the business side or other groups. And you're really trying to understand, how are you going to deliver this? What do they need to know for information? So overlapping project management into cybersecurity organizations is critical, I believe. Just as you saw probably over years, there's IT project managers, and if you're doing any software development, you may have a scrum master or project manager. It's the same for cybersecurity. Some of the projects or activities may be pretty minor, where you don't do a full project plan and so on. But really being able to be adaptable from a project manager, because there is not a nice framework to say, this is how I do this activity. Everything we are doing is essentially groundbreaking. I would say that, yes, you might be deploying an application, but you're changing people's lives. Like all the work, that we're doing is when we're introducing new things to these organizations, it's a project. How do I get it working? Not only, but how do I have people adopt it? So adoption is a big piece of it. And those are all bringing together that project management background. Sometimes it's technical studies. It's that I need to understand what our capacity is and that project manager's skill set. So everybody in our organization is doing some level of project management. And, if there is a CISO team out there, I can guarantee you that Chief Information Security Officer has projects that need a project manager, and they may not have somebody on their team. So if that's a skill set and you want to get into cybersecurity, it's a great way to really move into that area. Excellent question. Next question is, what tips would you recommend to people trying to enter cybersecurity for the first time? So I'll go to Punitha and Paula on this one. Punitha?
Okay, so be ready to be a lifelong student. So that's one thing that I can actually say. This is not with, especially with cybersecurity for that, because cybersecurity is booming and there is no end to it, because every day is a challenge for a cybersecurity person, whoever is involving this. I just wanted to say, be very, very cautious about, you should be very cautious about a lifelong student. The second tip, that you be curious, because sometimes when in our childhood, we just ask questions like why the sky is blue and why everything is green or something like that. So that curiosity sometimes dies out when we go out, when we just grow old. So that has to be intact. That is one tip. The second thing is that try and update which field you are wanted to choose. There's so many roles out there in cybersecurity. Do you wanted to actually, where Cassie had mentioned it before, do you wanted to enter into project management, or try and build project management skills, okay, and then try to diversify your skill out there? Or do you wanted to become an auditor, an assessor, like which I had taken a role, right? So you build your foundation on an auditor. Based on that, cybersecurity comes. Add on your, so especially you will have to leverage what your skill set and try to top it up, or try to top it on the the extra skills, or which fascinates you more. So that is another tip that I want to do. Third thing is that you have to be keeping yourself consistent enough in your goals, or kind of things. Today people say that cybersecurity booming, then you just try to go in there. Tomorrow something comes, and then there is no end to it. There is definitely no end to it on this diversifications of the roles. Try to be consistent about what you need more. Try and talk to people in the same field, or networking, and try to see and gauge yourself what best fits for you. It doesn't need to be that someone else is good at it, you also need to be good at it, right? You gauge yourself what would suit you, and then try to leverage your skills by constant self study and connecting with people. These are the tips that I can share it across. Yeah.
Paula?
Self-study. I have to agree. Go out there, take the free courses that are out there, get the free certifications if you don't have enough money to get certified, in a formal way from one of the organizations. There's plenty of ways to prove that you're really interested by studying. List every course you've taken, list the certifications you have. That's probably the easiest way to get people to realize that even though you don't have exactly the right experience, you have some knowledge, you care about it, you want to learn it. I really think there's a lot of opportunity for that in cybersecurity, especially right now when it's so hot that everybody's offering certifications at every possible level. Start studying. My team is getting certified as security awareness professionals. Okay, that's that's communication basically. So yeah, that's my answer.
And I'm going to pick up where Punitha was mentioning about networking. I have people contacting me from other teams throughout the company saying, I'm really interested in cybersecurity. And I meet with them to find out their roles and to discuss that. So if you have anybody in your organization, do not be intimidated. If you have anybody in your LinkedIn network saying, I'm not looking for a job, I want to understand where you see and what kind of skill sets we could use. And then one of the big tips that I give people is volunteer to do something for them for free. You have skill sets that could be applied. So even like I said, go to the CISO, say, I'll do this on my own time. Do you have something? Do you just even like a little activity you want me to do that, check with your own manager or whatever, but find out if you're not working or if you're in college or anything, there are so many different nonprofit organizations that could use it. Yes, generally they're looking for somebody from a more technical standpoint, but one thing that we get asked all the time is questionnaires like, do you have this process? Do you do this? Do you do that? There's a lot of responding to customers, really, understanding. You might not have the background, but there are different areas where you can just really try to participate. So that's one of the tips that I would get. And that using that networking really helps, because I know the people that I've talked to in the last year to say, if I have something go up, I'll let them know. When Paula left the team, she's like, here are 4 names, that I think would be, potential good fits for this. So networks are really, really important. Internships for sure. Oh my gosh, yeah. We've had many. Paula, why don't you talk about some of the interns that we've had?
We've had interns in all different areas of the product security office. We had people who ended up being Power BI specialists who joined the team. We've had programmers. We've had people who worked in training and awareness with me and then moved on to get full-time jobs in the field. So I mean, there's definitely openings for interns everywhere. Schneider Electric pays their interns. Most large companies do. Some small companies, you might be able to just do it sort of in your spare time, but it gives you experience to put on your resume. Always important.
And I think the most interesting background that we ever had was he a psychology major? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
psychology.
Neuropsychology, yeah.
Neuropsychology as an intern.
Yeah.
So
he really wanted to be marketing, but he found that out.
And it's just all about exploration. So thank you for the question, Pike. Okay, another question from Sarah is, how have you replied when somebody asks you in a job interview if you have technical experience and you don't, but you have the knowledge for the role? And Sarah said, I myself am a fast learner and I try to pitch that, but I feel like this statement is becoming cliche. All right, so I have a little bit of this is real for me. The question that you asked, Sarah, is because 30 plus years, 35 years in technology, software development, people assume I'm technical. I mean, same kind of thing for Paula. I rarely code. I can read code. I can do all of that. But if I take a role somewhere else at a different company, they're looking generally for more hands-on experience, and I can't provide that. So first off is, if I did have that experience, it would be, I just answer the question. This is the experience I have. Really, I interviewed tons of people from a technical standpoint and such. It's going to come out. I usually leave that for more of the technical interviewers to ask those questions. But in general, it is not whether you've had the job experience, because stuff gets stale so quick. When somebody tells me I have this set up in my lab, that fact that they have a lab in their home, which honestly a lot of cybersecurity people do, it makes a big difference. Or I've worked on this, and it's it's similar, just in the same nature. People aren't generally, I mean, if you've experienced this, I think that if you're relating it and you've done some of those lab exercises or work, it'll make a big difference. But don't ever sell yourself short. And I see this especially in a lot of gender areas, is like, well, I'm not technical. Never say that. I had a project manager who would say that all the time. And I told her, I'm like, please don't start every conversation with that. It is everybody's responsibility in what they're working on to learn new things, and you're setting up this this wrong sort of language when you're saying I'm not technical or I don't have this experience. You go with this is what I have that's similar, or I haven't done that before, but it seems like this, and I'm comfortable with being proficient in that in no time. But be truthful if you say that. If somebody wants me to be able to set up the build platform for it because they want somebody hands-on, I'm going to say, I've done that before. The tools have changed. I could do that. And then I'm honest that that's not where I want to be. I don't want to step back. But never lie, but don't sell yourself short. Because if you believe you can learn it, then they will too. You've got to have confidence in yourself. Paula or Punitha, either one of you.
Don't say I'll never step back, because that's what moved me into cybersecurity, by going backwards to something I'd done many, many years ago in technical publications, and other times stepping back to become something, and then immediately other doors open. So it's very dangerous to say, I'm never going to step back. In fact, you're going to lock yourself into bad places.
Right, true.
And it's a much better way to learn to say, well, okay, let me try that. I can always leave. I mean, that's something that people forget. You know, jobs are not like, you're not locked into them forever. I just had a conversation last week with someone who said, I cry every day. I said, leave the job. What are you talking about?
Right.
No job is worth that. So find something that makes you happy. And if you have to step back to something you did before that you know you like, that you can live with for a while you figure out where to go next, that's okay. And that might be what gets you in further to cybersecurity.
And we're going to have to go quick because I've got 3 more questions, Punitha. So let's take some of the next ones. All right. From Meta, I'm interested in work perhaps as a consultant, perhaps outside the US. I'm currently a CIO and studying CISSP. Is this idea consultant realistic? I think that's, you've worked a lot, Paula, globally. I have too, and Punitha, your work, you've been working on global teams. I think if you've got the experience, in my opinion, as a CIO and studying for CISSP, by the way, CISSP is very hard. Anybody who's gotten it, extremely hard. If you can do that from a consultant, as Paula said, the field is exploded. So I think it is realistic to consider. Either one of you have any comments on that one?
I agree with you, Cassie. Yeah, since CISSP is a gold standard certification, as they call, so they definitely add a lot of value when you're trying to becoming a consultant or any other cybersecurity space that you wanted to explore. So the start would be any of these certification that is going to really help you, and then see the recruiters would definitely see that you are a nice catch for their for their role, whatever role that you're going to apply.
Yeah, perfect. Just a comment from Phoebe, a sigh of relief. I'm in the process of completing a Six Sigma PM certification and was wondering if this would be applicable to cybersecurity. Punitha, just shortly describe a couple of the projects that, I said we need a cybersecurity, we need a Six Sigma because I said process and RCAs and root cause.
Absolutely. The Six Sigma thing will definitely bring back your how do you actually do and implement projects in this cybersecurity, right? So definitely the statistical mind would definitely see how do you reduce the number of defects when it takes into penetration testing, or it's going to be number of in the vulnerabilities that you're going to reduce. So the concept is same, the concept, the broad framework is same. But what are you going to do? How are you going to bring improvement is that matter, whether it is going to be on cybersecurity or whether it is going to be on a project development, you're going to use the Six Sigma knowledge, it's up to you. So Six Sigma is the umbrella. So you can do anything with it. So it's definitely a very, very useful for me to catch up with these process and try to connect the process improvement activities. It definitely helps with numbers, right? And end of the day, your business or your stakeholders or your leadership team needs numbers, data as an evidence for your backup to say that, hey, this process is not working, or this process needs improvement, or this process has to be knocked off. So where are the numbers that you get from? So these Six Sigma consultants definitely, or Six Sigma people, can bring about these numbers and try to connect the dots with the process and give the leadership team the good facts and unbiased report. So that way Six Sigma is really helpful in any field. Yeah.
And we're not going to have enough time for the last 2 questions that I see, is just what certifications would you recommend? Really, great question, but it's longer than a 30-second answer.
Google.
Yep. But what and favorite organizations for networking? I don't specifically have a favorite. But I would check meetup.com. In my area, Bay Area, there's definitely lots of different technical things. So I would recommend going to some of those. So I just wanted to give a few seconds to each person. Paula, any last words? You gave sort of a last words at the beginning, but I wanted to.
But yeah, I will say once again, don't be afraid. Don't let fear stop you from moving from job to job. I've had a lot of different careers and I plan to keep going. So, you just have to not be afraid of the fact that sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want. I also will say for networking, there's a lot of networking out there. Go there if you're looking for women's networking. There's women in engineering, women in, I mean, every field. So Google that also. But I do think networking is critical. Networking has brought me to so many of my jobs over the years. I mean, I have rarely applied for a job that didn't come to me through a network. Even my current job, someone said to me, "Hey, you should apply for this." So that's really, I can't stress how important networking is.
Punitha, just a few words.
Quickly reiterating the same kind of the CAPS technique again, call out that imposter syndrome yourself and rephrase your mind to accept that everyone makes mistakes. Break the humility and the losing or failure to fake. Final, yes, a step back to be an expert in all. That's it.
Thank you. And for me, it's just don't limit yourself. Do not limit yourself. Don't be afraid. You saw on our bios, we've been in so many different roles. You just don't give yourself a single niche. You will be able to move cross boundaries. So that's all I can recommend. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Punitha.
Thank you all. Have a great day, evening, and night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good to see everybody.